Shloishim Yoim Koidem HaPesach Chalol of Choivas Biur Kasher Avayer Siman Tav Lamed Vav. And therefore, Hilkach, it's a puzzle. Hilkach, from here we can learn, says the Torah, that when it comes 30 days before the Yontiv, now, in other words, Purim, so there's a Choivas Biur. How do Shoyl and Vidarshan, there's Chalach Choivas Biur. I was extremely worried there wouldn't be milk here. So let's understand the Gemara. This all comes from the Gemara, because the Gemara is the opposite of the Torah, meaning the opposite order of the Torah chronologically. And hence, we can understand that there's a whole different halacha here other than you're supposed to be learning Hilchos Pesach. Because the Gemara says like this. The Gemara says, Omar Rava, so Gemara Pesachim Dava, Omar Rava. Rava says a din that Hayotze b'shayara shloishim yoim koidem achag. If you go out, isn't the most common thing in the world. People are going to Pesach hotels, to America, that's this case. Hayotze b'shayara. And Rashi explains to us that there's no havamina, there's no thought at all that maybe you're going to come back for Pesach. It's not like I'm not coming back. I'm going to be away for Pesach, and I'm nothing to do with my house. Just lock it up and go. Now, hayotze b'shayara shloishim yoim koidem achag. If you are leaving within 30 days from the holiday, so chayiv levarech chemtzai. So says the Gemara Halacha of Rava. Agav, why don't we do this? It's not our subject, but does anybody do this? The answer is because we're Saibach on the Mechira. We do the Mechiras Chametz, so it's something to talk about somehow or another. That's mafkia from us Rava's din, but there's a clear din of Rava that when you go away, so if you go away 40 days before, so okay, I have no kesher to my house. Somehow there's a magical number of 30 days, and this is really what I want to speak about in the next few minutes. There's some kind of a shloishim yoim. What is this? What is this magical? The Gemara asks the question. The Gemara itself asks the question. What is the shloishim yoim? My habit. What is it? Why are you saying 30 days? So the answer is that we learn it out from, as we all know, from Pesach Sheni. And here, let's just get the story straight. We learn out what? That there's such a thing as Shloishim Yom when it comes to Hilchos Pesach. That's what the Gemara is after. We're not telling us a new halacha of Sholim V'Darshim. We're telling us a new a halacha that there's such a thing as Shloishim Yom. This Rabbi says a new Havana in the Gemara, probably. It's not the Pashut of Pshat if you go through it very quickly, but it's a deep thing that what the Gemara is after is not how you have to learn Hilchos Pesach. The Gemara is after where is there a din of Shloishim Yom, which we need to understand. But the Gemara, the Chumash in Parshas Baloscha tells a story that we all know that Vayidaber Hashem Moshe Midbar Sinai b'shana hashenis. Let's say some me'aretz Mitzrayim. So this was the second year. In other words, we came out of Mitzrayim. We did a Korban Pesach in Mitzrayim. We went through our Sinai. We made an Egel. We made a Mishkan on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Right? The following year, Shana Hashenis, we made a Mishkan. And then when we had the Mishkan, we finally brought a Korban Pesach. So we made the Korban Pesach in Mitzrayim, and then we made a Korban Pesach in the Midbar. B'shana Hashenis. Let's say some Eretz Yisrael, B'chodesh Harishon, in the first month, which was the month of Nisan. This, Chazal point out, was the only Korban Pesach that we made. The whole time we were in the Midbar, which is Hagufa Kasha. Like, why did we make a Korban Pesach all those years? Well, we didn't. But at that year, Vayashav Bnei Yisrael Pesach, we were very excited about it. We made the Pesach, B'mayda, exactly on the time, B'arba, so Yoim, B'chodesh Hazeh, Ben Arbaim, Tasu Oisei B'mayadai, Moshe told us over to the Klal Yisrael after Hashem told him, "Vayasu es haPesach berishayin b'arba'asar yoyim lachodesh ben harbayim b'midbar Sinai kechol asher tziva Hashem es Moshe kein asu b'nei Yisrael." All the complicated halachas of Korban Pesach, and presumably all the complicated halachas of Pesach. They already got the Torah, so they had to get rid of their chametz right there at the midbar. They already had to get rid of their chametz. They already had to. They were over by Yerah Matzeh. They had to change. They had to make matzahs. Where'd they get the wheat from? Where'd they get the mishkan from? I mean, maybe that's why they didn't make a korban the whole time. But there was a lot of halachas that Moshe Rabbeinu had to tell Klal Yisrael, and everybody did it. They brought the korban Pesach, and then the Torah says famously, "Vayi anashim asher hayu tzmayim lenefesh adam." There were certain people that were tamei, so they came to Moshe Rabbeinu and they said, "Listen, we're sitting shiva. What are we supposed to do? We bring a korban Pesach. We can't, even though this breaks the shiva, but it doesn't break the tubah. So they're tamei. What are we supposed to do? Why should we lose out on this huge mitzvah of korban Pesach? Karis. What are we supposed to do?" Rashi explains the answer that they were expecting, just while we're here, the answer was expecting was, "You're right," and he would be mazah on them, may tahara, and they would become tahara, and they would bring the korban Pesach, Bo B'yom. That was what they were expecting to happen. But you see, that's not the way we do things, right? Okay, so you'll be tahara, Rachman Asani. That's not the way it works. And Hashem Moshe says to the men, when they say Lama Nigara Lavilti Hakrivas Korban Hashem Ma'ida B'Tach B'nei Yisrael, we can't bring a korban Pesach. I need some godly intervention on this. I need to find out what to do. And Hashem told them, as you know, to make a very interesting Ishish Ki Yatame L'Nefesh B'Derech Rechaika Lachem L'Darisechem V'Asa Pesach L'Hashem. So Hashem says, "Okay, I'll tell you a halacha." I could have told you this at Har Sinai, but I was waiting for somebody to ask. So Chazal say. So now that you asked, let me tell you that anybody who's tamei on Pesach, oy b'derech rechaika, that's an addition. Nobody there was b'derech rechaika. Like nobody in the midbar said, "Oh, I was out of town. I couldn't bring a korban Pesach. I was going to visit Saudi Arabia or something like Dubai." That wasn't what was going on. So b'derech rechaika was for all the future dairos, not even then, but all the future dairos in Eretz Yisrael when there's a Beis HaMikdash, to bring a korban Pesach. What are you going to do if you're in America, you're traveling? So if you're an oides, asa Pesach Hashem, and when should you do it? A new halacha b'chodesh hasheni, b'arba'asar yoyim ben arba'im yasu oisam al matzos b'arim yechlu, etc. And he told them the halachas.
30 days is just the amount of time between Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni?
So all the 30 days is, and this is the whole limud. This is the whole limud that there was Harei Moshe stood, says the Gemara, on Pesach Rishon, v'mazir al Pesach Sheni, which was b'diuk 30 days, and this is the mature way to understand the Gemara. Hence, the Gemara has a mamatzinu that we find that 30 days is a thing. I mean, why is 30 days a thing?
Maybe it's an asmachta.
Maybe it's an asmachta.
Who says it there?
Yeah, right. Is this a deraisa? Is this a derabanan? Is it a halacha by Shebisida? Is it a smachta v'halmahi? Like what is this b'chlal? But the Gemara, all the Gemara is learning from it. We take out the big halacha, and it seems like the Shulchan Aruch takes out the big halacha that you have to learn Hilchos Pesach 30 days before. That's not the big halacha here. The Torah says the big halacha is that you're chayiv and bir chametz, Rava's halacha. That you're chayiv and bir chametz 30 days before you leave, if you're leaving within 30 days of Pesach. How do we know it? We know it from a thing that we find in the Chumash, that Moshe Rabbeinu was darshaning in Hilchos Pesach Sheni on Pesach Rishon. So we find some place, some kind of a makor for Shloshim Yom, that's all. Which Moshe Rabbeinu himself wasn't Mekayim. He wasn't Mekayim this up 30 days before Pesach. Like Matzinu, the Moshe Rabbeinu 30 days before Pesach on Purim was saying over Hilchos Pesach. It wasn't right. Rosh Chodesh, probably at Rosh Chodesh. Actually, the Shita of Rav Shimon Gamliel, the Gemara is to argue with the Zabraisa. and say that Moshe Rabbeinu was made 2 weeks before. That's, in other words, before Pesach, not after Pesach. But we're looking for Shloshim Yom. That's how we paskin. We paskin Shloshim Yom. So we bring a brisa, as the Torah says, Tanya, Shoylem V'darshim Hilchos Pesach Koydem HaPesach. This is the pshat in the Torah. Shloshim Yom. Hilkach, and therefore I want to tell you the Halacha Gedolah, and that's the Hilkach. Shloshim Yom Koydem HaPesach Halav Chayvus Biur. Yeah, everybody with me? Push it up, shot.
Is the Indian then of Shloshim Yom then extending to areas like Avelos because of this, or is that like a separate Indian altogether?
I'm thinking all the cases of Shloshim Yom in the Torah. Pidyon Ben. Karbanos. You have to do Bikur Karbanos a lot of times. For Shloshim Yom, you got to watch the animal, make sure it doesn't have a mum. Avelus, like you say, there's a din of Shloshim. Nazir is a din of Shloshim. Yonah the Yom. Sukkah Yeshana. Shloshim Yom. That's why. That's probably connected to the Pidyon Ben. So the whole makor for anything Shloshim, maybe Avelos might be different because Avelos has to do with Chazal figuring out how we feel. You know, there's how we feel on the Yom HaMisa when we lose one of the Shiva Kroivim. How do we feel 30 days later? How do we feel a year later? It's very interesting. There are the halachas of Avelos. It's the other way around. It's not telling us how to feel. It's telling us how to express what we feel. And, you know, it's anybody has been an Ovel, you'll know that, like the first, let's say you're an Ovel for 12 months, you don't want to go to a wedding for 12 months. It's not like you're holding yourself back. But you've got 12 months, you feel like going to a chassan. The Chazal or Meshayir, how a person, how it's mishtachech min alev, which doesn't mean you forget about the mace, but the avelus kind of that wearing off feels lighter. But so maybe shloshim yom of avelus might be different. But here the Gemara, I mean, it's something that I don't know. I never thought about this before. Like it's something very interesting. Like where did you pick up this 30-day thing? Lagabe bir chametz. It's a pliyadika chumrah that the Gemara says, and that's how we paskin halacha. That within 30 days you have to paskin. Why? Because on Pesach Rishon, it could have been a case in the Chumash, Ladati, it could have been a case in the Chumash that on Shivasar B'Tammuz, Moshe Rabbeinu spoke for 30 days ahead of or it could have been Rosh Chodesh Elul, he spoke about Rosh Hashanah. It could have been, but what we find in the Chumash, it's just looking for a place of 30 days. And Agavurcha Kamashmal and the Brisa, which may be Deraisa, that we see that you have to do Shoylan, Shulchan Aruch says, Torah says Shoylan V'Darshan. And why is that a shaila? Because in the Gemara, if you look, it says Shoylan, and in the Shoylan V'Darshan rather, and in the Bach, Agoysa Bach says Yesh Garshan Shoylan. So there's two girsas. So it would be interesting for me to find out for a few minutes what are those two girsas. What's the shaila, Shoylan V'Darshan? The first thing I want to explain is the sugya. The sugya is where does Shloshim Yom? Mandach Hashmai, Shloshim Yom.
A person who is coming and you died in the sun, it's quite possible that a week later it'll be takor.
Or a day later.
Exactly. So not you have to wait 30 days. You can't do it.
That's right.
One minute you get. You have to wait till you died of the next month. So there's definitely not purposeful. And
Yes.
the one that you want collectively to do it as well.
So the question is why, or do we have any idea why? That's the question. Like why? Okay, when you're tar, you bring a korban pesach. When you're tar, you bring a korban pesach. Or let's make a time of 2 weeks. I think that would cover it. Am I right?
You could argue that it goes back to like the case of, let's say, a Nazir in some respect, because effectively everything post Pesach, right, the person would have done from a Pesach. And when a Nazir takes on Ba'alma, that he's going to be a Nazir, we know that it's the 30 days.
Stam Naziris
is
30 days.
So effectively, his time to be Tahor would only have then been 30 days later, which would have been
So what, we're learning it from Nazir, but the Gemara is not saying we're learning from Nazir. The Gemara is saying we're learning it from Moshe Rabbeinu. So the answer is, where's Nazir learning it from? No, there's something.
Coming from the moon. Like, the sun is Mechadash.
Okay.
It's the most logical 30 days.
So we work in 30-day cycles. Hilchos Nida.
So the sun is Mechadash. Whatever it was, is Mechadash.
What'd you say?
Lunar month is 29.5 days, so it would be close.
So really, Pesach Sheni, yeah. Well, we know a month is about 30 days. It's, okay, so Svara,
Sorry.
which doesn't say anywhere. Like, so what? So, I mean, I just want to. So what?
You said that
There's a new moon.
The world works on a 30-day cycle. That's the Bria that we
I mean, it's the Bria. You're saying the Bria. The Bria works in 30s.
Then it would have said that.
That would have been what the Gemara would have said. It's such a good answer.
Yeah, the Gemara would have said. And anyway, there's a source about Chodesh anyway for Yafet Torah waiting Chodesh.
Yep, Chodesh Hazel Lechem. It's a couple parshas earlier. You know, I mean, what do you, many parshas earlier. Shmois. No, so you have Rabbi, you have a very good kasha. Like, why does the Gemara have to go all the way to Moshe Rabbeinu and Pesach Sheni to find Shloshim Yoim? We know Shloshim Yoim is a thing.
That you say is that was a halachic thing. I'm now
So let me just say what we're saying. I just want to say it in sort of lumdisha terms. In other words, when we say, just touching it in these kind of words, when we say that Shloshim Yoim Koydem Achag, Koydem HaPesach, you're Shoylan V'darshan B'Hilchos Pesach. That's what the Gemara says. That's the brisa where somehow it all starts. Moshe Rabbeinu did this. He was makbid on the 30 days. So does that mean that, look, for some reason, it takes 30 days to get the halachas out. It takes 30 days to prepare for Pesach. And how do we know? Because you see Moshe Rabbeinu, Pesach Sheni. Although I want to tell you, what did he tell them about Pesach Sheni already? There's no great preparation involved. Matzahs and Marim Yachlu. You're allowed to have chametz. Rashi says, right? You're butcher to have chametz. There's no Isser Malacha. You don't have to do any Hagolas Kalim. There's Seder, yes. So you have to do a Matzahs and Marim Yachlu. But it's not, nothing. No, it doesn't take any 30 days. There's more halachas about Shavuos. There's no minyan. There's no minyan of Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim, according to most Rishonim. Pesach Sheni. Why not? Why? Because they could do that while they're, except Al Matzah Sumerim Yechlu, they have to eat a Korban Pesach, and the Korban Pesach, that's the whole story, that they should bring a Korban Pesach. The Korban Pesach requires Al Matzah Sumerim Yechlu. That's all. They have to have a little bit of matzah, because I some matzah, because I some bar, and you do it basically pretty much the same thing we all do on Pesach Sheni, or you should. But it's not like it required, like, okay, you got to go to school now because you were tamei and you missed the whole thing. And like I said before, we don't find either that Moshe Rabbeinu even prepared them before Pesach Rishon. Like this, they had time to prepare. So should have said that Moshe Rabbeinu was oimed on Purim to talk about Pesach. Why let's see do such a thing? But it's interesting. We learned from Pesach Sheni to Pesach Rishon, and the answer is that's all wrong. Everything I just said is wrong because what actually happens is all we're learning from here is this. There's this thing called Shloshim Yoim Chodesh. There's a thing called Shloshim Yoim, but Shloshim Yoim. But by the lumdishuk point is it the pshat that in fact there's a thing called Shloshim Yom, like it pops open the season of Pesach. You know, Pesach is Tesvav, but there's something that happens on 30 days before, and that's what the Gemara is learning, and bingo, now you have certain halachas of Pesach. Not just you got to start, prepare yourself, learn Hol Shoylan and Darshan. No. That there's a chiyuv bir chametz. There's a chiyuv bir chametz. On the day before Purim, there's no chiyuv bir chametz. You can't do it even if you want to. And here you can make bir chametz according to most places with a bracha. You could say bir chametz. You could do a bedika without a bracha. You could do all the stuff, and not only you can, you have to. Ayotze b'shayara. This is the Rav's halacha. You got to take care of this. So the Shloshim Yom, it's not just preparing. It's a opening of the season. It's it's lahavdil. It's like Black Friday or something. Like it's something happens on Shloshim Yom. Going to Machag, maybe in Shamayim, maybe like you say, maybe it's the Chodesh, maybe it's Chodesh Hagula, Chodesh Hazelchem, Rosh Chodashim. Yecholiot, you can say Svaras, but is it the pshat in the Shloshim Yom Koydem HaPesach that it's some kind of a new yontiv, if you will, called Shloshim Yom Kodesh Pesach, or is it the pshat that that's like the average amount that it takes to teach people Hilchos Pesach? So let me go further. You want to say something on this?
I want to ask about Yachal Merosh Chodesh. So the Haggadah has a Havamin over there of 2 weeks. Where does that come from? And why don't why don't they have a Havamin of Shloshim? Why don't they have a Havamin of Shloshim?
Yeah. Okay. So let me read with you the Beis Yosef. I presume you don't all have one. So the Beis Yosef says like this: Tanya Shoylin Behilchos Pesach. Now this is Beis Yosef L'Shitasa in the Shulchan Aruch that he kind of argues with the Torah, because the Torah says Tanya Shoylin V'Darshan Behilchos Pesach. Shoylin V'Darshan. And like the Bach quotes the Torah, these are the two great commentaries on the Torah, the Beis Yosef and the Bach. The Bach quotes the Torah, he says Tanya Shoylin V'Darshan. And you'll see that the Bach is L'Shitase, Beis Yosef L'Shitase, but all he says is Tanya Shoylin V'Hilchos Pesach Kodesh Pesach Shloshim Yom. In other words, he takes that gear. So think to yourselves, what's the nafkamina? Like what's so break the Beis Yosef? Be'im Toimar. He says, now I have a question. Atanya Perik B'nei Yir, it says in Megillah Lamed Beis, Moshe Tiken Lam L'Yisrael Shu Shoylin V'Hilchos Pesach B'Pesach. Hilchos Atzeres B'Atzeres, Hilchos Chag, that means Sukkos B'Chag. So, which one is it? We have two takanas of Moshe Rabbeinu. Is it on, according to the Gemara in Megillah, so there's a halacha that you have to learn, Hilchos Pesach on Pesach. First day of Pesach, that's what the Seder has to be, learning Hilchos Pesach. That's how time to learn Hilchos Seder. And here it says, no, what do you mean? What's the chiddush of learning Hilchos Pesach on Pesach if you're supposed to be learning it already for 30 days? There's no chiddush of it. Yesh Loimar, so now the Beis Yosef says three terutzim. I won't tell you all of them because it's a big nafkamina. It says Beis Yosef following. But Yesh Loimar, the Tanya Shoylin Koidem HaPesach Shloshim Yoim Lav LeMemra doesn't mean to say it doesn't. You thought it means that you have to sit and learn Hilchos Pesach for 30 days, right? And everybody's very machmer on this, even at the Purim Suda, right? Learn a Mishnah and Psachim. That's not the pshat. The pshat is it has to do with what the Rambam brings in Hilchos Talmud Torah, that b'shnei talmidim sheshoyel echad shoyel kinyan ve'echad shloi kinyan. If you have two talmidim in front of you. This is how busy Rabbanim were. And one Talmud asks you a shayla ki'inyan, the Rambam says in Hilchos Talmud Torah, and one asks you shaloi ki'inyan. Translate ki'inyan, pirush, halacha l'maisa. Halacha l'maisa. Somebody's asking me like halacha l'maisa they have to know, and somebody's asking me like they want to talk and learning. By the way, many times I went into Rav Yosef Zecher Tzadik Levracha to ask a shayla. Sometimes in Hilchos Nida, sometimes like Rav Yosef, like if he'll say mutter, aser, So if you'll ask him that the Rabbah says, so it's such and such. He always said this. I heard him say it a few times. Did you come here to talk and learning or to ask me a shayla? Talk and learning. So we'll make a time and we'll talk and learning. It's. Understand, Rav Moshe was the opposite. He was Meirach. He spoke to people, told them all their rayas, told them everything. It was Rabbi Yosef. So there's, if you have a shayla l'maisa, I'll answer you. If you don't have a shayla l'maisa, I'm not going to answer you. So that's what it says over here. That's the Rambam and Hilchos Talmud Torah. Shnei talmidim sheshoyel mechad shoyel kinyan mechad shaloi kinyan. Niskaking l'shoyel kinyan. You have to give priority to the shoyel kinyan, asalash mina to kol sheshoyel b'hilchos Pesach. So here's an afkamina la'alacha. If it's shloshim yom koidem lePesach, and somebody's asking you something about how do I kosher my microwave, and it's shloshim yom koidem lePesach, so that's called chashiv shoyel kinyan. And the whole inyan of shloshim yom is to know whether your shayla is. So it's a vart in. Here's my point here. It's a vart in the Talmidim, not a vart in what the Rav is teaching. He could be teaching Kabbalah. But there's an Indian of priority of who to answer and how to answer and how quickly to answer. That has to do with the Shleishim Yom. Shleishim Yom switch your priority. That's called the Shoyal Kinyan. By the way, of course, it's not the only thing that's Shoyal Kinyan. Like, I've always, like, one of the times I answer my phone is like always around Shkia, because I always get calls from women from the mikveh. Go to this, go to that, every day. So, okay, that's a Shoyal Kinyan. If there's anything that's a Shoyal Kinyan, that's a Shoyal Kinyan. I wanted to put the answer on my answering machine. Odye Shlomar, Beis Yosef, if you don't look at that teretz, I'm going to tell you now another teretz. Remember the kasha? Kasha is that in one Gemara it says that 30 days before you have to learn Hilchos Pesach, and the other one says on Pesach you have to learn Hilchos Pesach. So how do we miyasha the two Gemaras? So the first answer was, you never have to learn Hilchos Pesach. Only on the day you have to learn Hilchos Pesach. But you're called a Shoyal Kinyan. It's a good Shaila before. Second teretz. Oidei Shleimar. The Dinei Pesach, when it comes to Hilchos Pesach, I'll kol panim tzarich la'adiyam la'am koidem lePesach shloshim yom. No. You have to start teaching Hilchos Pesach 30 days before Pesach. Kedei sheyeh lahem shahus rav. Look at all the things you have to do before Pesach. You have to be tochein the chitim. You have to know, do I have kosher flour, wheat? Ba'afiyas matzah. You have to do the matzah. Hagolas kelim. Beer chametz. Di'ilu b'Pesach, and look at Pesach, says the Beis Yosef, leislahu takanta ilayavdi lahu kilchasai. There's a deadline. Like everybody's all nervous before Pesach. So the second teretz says that there's so much to teach about Pesach that you have to teach Hilchos Pesach. So how's that miyashiv the kasha? So he says a little bit later, I'm just going to cheat ahead, on Pesach, so you have to go over a couple of halachos, maybe say drush, he says. Talk about, the Anoni HaKavod or something, or talk about the godless, the freedom of matzahs, all kinds of drushes. That's an important thing to do. But the Hilchos Pesach that has a deadline, that's what you have to talk about for Hilchos Pesach, different than his first teretz.
Why did you use the word sholim? Because that's not asking you.
Right. In other words, according to this teretz, teach. Yeah, darshan. Right. No, I'm reading this because I love this next two lines in the Beis Yosef. Masha'ein kain b'shar moyadim. Why don't we find this by the other Yom Tovim? The ba'atzera sleika dinim. Sure was nothing, no dinim. Yos. Hilchos Yom Tov, okay. But Sukkos, listen to this. Ubesukkos, avagav deika mitzvah sukkah b'lulav, ein tzarich lomad b'hem. Ein kol kach dinim. Da afilu sukkos ganvach v'rav kash kshera, ubedafnei sagi b'shtayim kil chasam u'shlishus afilu tefach. Go find me a puzzle sukkah. Chasadish, this chumrah, that chumrah. V'lulavim, v'esroigim, rubim ksherim. Now, I like personally, my personal practice is I spend a significant amount of time before Pesach looking at people's rust spots on their pots. Not too much. Can you kosher or can you not kosher? Sukkos, like seeing cross-eyed. After 2 or 3 days of looking at it, go find me a puzzle. I think it was the Brisker Rav. I think it was a Brisker Rav who used to go through like hundreds of lulavim until he found the lulav that he was happy to make a bracha on. And somebody came from a school, one of the chadorim. They came to the Brisker Rav. They said, "Can we have all the puzzle lulavim for chinuch? Can we take the puzzle lulavim?" I said 100. He says, "Not one of them is puzzle." Yeah, I'm looking for something special. Puzzle will love it. But here's the Beis Yosef Shulchan Aruch. Beis Yosef is the Shulchan Aruch. That's what you get so excited about, like with Sukkot. Pesach is a different story. Voy chain tirchas sukkah v'lulav meruba v'dayin lisasik member v'chag erev yontiv. You have to put together your 2 dafnais and a tafach and cut off a tree from a branch from the tree, and you're set to go. Mishum hachi loy boy lisho v'lidrash b'ilchosav kol kach zman koidem. V'hodas anya sheshoylem hilchas Pesach b'Pesach v'hilchas Chag b'Chag. There's a different halacha, the Gemara in Megillah. Remember, this is the kasha that we're asking. There's the Gemara in Megillah that says that on Yontiv Gufa, you have to talk about Hilchos Pesach and Chag. Hainu says the Beis Yosef, I went ahead on this, Lidrash B'tamim Shebavurim Nitztavenu B'moed. Take a look at the meaning of the Yontiv. That's what you're supposed to do on the Yontiv, even though it says Hilchos. A little bit of Hilchos Yontiv, but you don't need to get carried away on Sukkot. You don't need to get. So he's saying there's no din, according to the second terrace, which is a Ran, by the way. There's no din at all of Hilchos Shalom Darshan on Sukkot or on Shavuos, and certainly not on Rosh Hashanah, and certainly not on Yom Kippur, and certainly not on all the other Yom Tov. And then he says, V'oidye shleimer. And there's a third teretz. The Bepara Kamada Avodah Zarah, in the beginning of Avodah Zarah, Hayam and Beis, Amrinon, there we say, the time of the Ba'inam Koidem LePesach Shloishim Yoim, that's because Mipnei HaKorban, Kedei LeBoitkan Mumrin, I think you said this, right? That the whole Nekuda of Shloishim Yoim you find by Pesach is only because you've got to watch that animal for 30 days. That's it. Today we don't have any korbanos, right? Everybody in Klal Yisrael's got to bring korban Pesach, and if everybody's got to bring korban Pesach, you need shloishim yoyim to be mevaker mumen. Yeah. V'zeh tzrichin shloishim yoyim lidrish la behilchas haPesach. So you can imagine like this: the Beis Yosef says that everybody be gathered around their korban Pesach, and is this animal going to knock that? And the conversation in the street is something that we see like in a lulav and esrog shuk. That's good. That's good. What she does like this, what she does like that. All that conversation was taking place around the korban Pesach. Kadeshi shows lekulam likach lem korbanos bedukim mimumen. And this is taka, says the Beis Yosef of the third teretz. This is taka a program or that requires 30 days to do. V'afagav, says the Beis Yosef, v'afagav the hashta b'avonosenu ein lanu korban. We're not bringing any korbanos. Kiven de bisman shaya korban hiskinu shu darshan shloshim yom koidem takana loizazamim koim. Takana loizazamim koim. The takana is still there. So really, what we're talking about here in the shloshim yom is not what Moshe Rabbeinu was talking about. B'chlal Pesach Rishon to Pesach Sheni. What we're talking about in the shloshim yom is just biker mumen and whatever conversation is involved in picking out a kosher korban Pesach, which we don't have, as he says earlier, for Lulavim or Sukkot, almost everything is good, but Pesach, korban Pesach have to be medayik. And even though that reason no longer exists, minhag avosenu b'yadeinu. And here we have the minhag to learn 30 days. So it could be like be'etzem hadavar. So let's do it differently. In my chakira, is this shloshim yom puf a new holiday like shloshim yom kodesh machag? There's some kind of a spirit from Shemayim coming on us on Shloshim Yom Kodesh Machag, just like we know that there is on Pesach Gufa, or is it the pshat that you need 30 days to get ready? So from the Etzem HaGemara, this is the point I want to make here. From the Etzem HaGemara, that the Gemara is just learning where do we know 30 days from, and picks out this random halacha of Pesach Sheni. You see that the Gemara is saying that Shloshim Yom, and it wasn't about Achana. Again, there was nothing to be meichen for so much. Pesach Sheni certainly didn't need 30 days, didn't need more than Shavuos.
You didn't have to be, again, on the moving.
So very good. So according to the third teretz in the Beis Yosef, so it could be it was Achana. If the pshat, or according to the second teretz, but if it's the pshat, we're shoyel kinyan, shalai kinyan, it could be there, it could be, I don't know, that it had to do with the Yontiv Gufa, but it's mashma from all, to me it's mashma from all three terutzim in the Beis Yosef, that all it's about hachana. Either you don't have to do hachana for Shavuos or Sukkot so much, you don't have to watch Karbanis so much on the other holidays. It's all different. You're not shoyel kinyan because it's not nogay, it's all about hachana. Comes the Bach, and I'm just going to tell you Bekitzer because it's a long thing, I'm out of time. Comes the Bach, and he says that he doesn't like any of the terutzim of the Beis Yosef. And he quotes the Tshuvas HaRashba. He doesn't. He just says Ayin Sham, but I actually looked up the Tshuvas HaRashba, and here's his lashon. It's in Shailin Tshuvas HaRashba Chelek Aleph Kuf Mem. Shloishim Yamim Lifnei Hamoyed Zmanoi Shel Hamoyed. What a gewaldige lashon, the diktuk of the Rashba. Shloishim Yamim Koydem Hamoyed Zmanoi Shel Hamoyed. That's a new zman, let's call it zman, moedim zmanim. A new season has opened up. It's Pesach season. And Pesach season is a halachic concept. So I'm going to tell you, Oyser Veinik here, what does the Bach say? He says, you're asking a kasha from the Gemara in Megillah to the Gemara in Pesachim. What is it? Is it Shloshim Yom Koydem? Or is it boy bayoim that you have to learn Hilchos Pesach, Hilchos Pesach b'Pesach, Hilchos Atzeres b'Atzeres? He says that's no kasha. He says whenever the Gemara says be, it doesn't mean be. It means the amount of time which it's correct to do. So you come into it in the right way. Gives a mashal. He says mitzvah adam l'tayir atzmai biregel. Supposed to go to the mikvah before Yontiv. When do you go to the mikvah? On Yontiv? Biregel? No. You're supposed to go to the mikveh before Yontiv or do whatever it takes to be tahor. So he says that the pshat in mitzvah to learn Hilchos Pesach b'Pesach means that we learn from the Gemara and Moshe Rabbeinu, that takes 30 days. And the season opens up at 30 days. So Libi Amarli, that what the Bach is learning, that there's an actual halachic zman, Moedim Zmanim, there's an actual halachic zman of 30 days. I think if you'll go through the Bach, you'll see. I just want to close with this, that the Mishnah Berurah brings from the Rishonim that we all know there has to be, the Rav is supposed to give a Shabbos Hagadol drasha. So the Rav Shulchan Aruch says two halachas. He says, first of all, it's a kiyum of the Shloshim Yom. You have to prepare people for Pesach, and you have to teach Hilchos Pesach. And he says that for years, as the Rav Shulchan Aruch writes Hilchos Pesach, for years I'm getting upset at people that are not talking Halacha L'Maaseh b'Hilchos Pesach. I'm sure the people he was talking about are not as bad as me. They're talking about some kind of current events. But he means to say, they're saying, the Rabbanim are saying all their pilpulim and lamdusha things and kind of like showing the tzibur how much they know, instead of teaching the people halacha l'maaseh. So the Rav Shulchan Aruch says, you have to make sure to teach people halacha l'maaseh. Another chiddush, he says that right now, that all of this din of the Gemara of learning 30 days, darshan, again, he's going with the gears of the Bach that says darshan Hilchos HaPesach. This is not nugay anymore. It's not nugay anymore because today we learn from Svarim. It's not like darshan that the Rebbe had to come and teach you Hilchos Pesach. Well, open up the Art Scroll Mishnah Berurah, Hilchos Pesach. So the Rav Shulchan Aruch says the whole thing doesn't really mean anything. So what does it come down to? He says Shabbos Hagadol, the halachas, the people weren't able to learn themselves for Pesach. The Rav should talk halacha l'maaseh on Shabbos Hagadol. Comes the Aruch HaShulchan, in the same simon, and he says that Apitob, who talks halacha l'maaseh, the Shabbos Hagadol drasha. This is the time for the Rav to show off. Wow, there's 3 dinim in the Piskei Harosh here, okay. Nothing to do with halacha l'maaseh. Why? Because the halacha l'maaseh you learned, and he brings again the Rashba be'es oida, when the season opened up, shloshim yom koydem hachag. You already learned to Shloshim Yom Koydem Hachag. So you see here, too, I can't say the machlekes achronim, but you can say, well, it is a machlekes about what you should do on the Shabbos Hagadol drasha. But you see 2 different attitudes towards the Shloshim Yom. Here's the Rav Shulchan Aruch saying 2 things. No, you don't need the Shloshim Yom because you could just read it in a book. There's so many books, you don't need Shloshim Yom anymore. So when he's learning, and the Shabbos Hagadol drasha does take care of it and should take care of it, it's all about Hachana L'Chag. That's all. You could do it now in 2 weeks. You don't need 30 days. But the Aruch HaShulchan, if you look at his whole arichas there's this din of Shloshim Yom. Shloshim Yom. There's the Taz. I don't have to go all the way so forward to the Aruch HaShulchan. The Taz says that there's a chiyuv on al harabanim v'rosha kehillos to teach this from this halacha, to be direction to teach, and everything should have to do about Pesach. For 30 days, everything should have to do about Pesach. So again, it's not just because everybody's being sobach, the Rav's Shabbos drasha. It's a funny thing. The answer is that Shloshim Yom is the season. So this is the only way to explain the Bir Chametz. If we talk again at some point, we have to figure out why we don't do what it says in the Shulchan Aruch. And why don't we have to do if we're going away for Pesach and you're going to be within Shloshim Yom, which means now. So according to the Shulchan Aruch, you have to do a Bedikas Chametz and a Bir Chametz and burn your Chametz and do everything before you go. That's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. So nobody does that. The whole reason you go away. So you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't have to do that. So the answer is that somehow the Mechira took over. From the Shulchan Aruch, the Mechira took over. And if you're going away for Pesach, the only thing you can do is be somech on the Mechira, which is okay. That's the Minhag Yisrael. So on the Mechira, so that's Mechira is mafkia from you, the chiyuv of Bir Chametz. The question is, when should you make that Mechira, or is it good enough to know about the Mechira? So that's a different halacha.